Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Max Sinclair, founder and CEO at Ecomtent. Now these guys are a generative AI content tool that's really helping hundreds of sellers maximize and improve and optimize their listings on marketplaces like Amazon. And today we're going to be digging into that, so what the business does, and then also looking at Max's journey from working at Amazon to creating a software that helps businesses that are on their platform. We're also going to be talking about AI and the future of non-human content creation. But first off, Max, it's great to have you on. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, good to be here, Jordan. Thank you.
Can we kick off by just talking about your background? So I know that you worked at Amazon before this, right? What were you doing there, and what was kind of the day-to-day like?
Sure. So I worked at Amazon for 6 years. I joined Amazon straight out of university in 2016, and when I joined, I was an account manager. So I was helping sellers basically day-to-day in running their Amazon accounts. I became a strategic account manager, so I was helping the likes of Anko and Geonic and Domu and some of the biggest sellers on the Amazon EU platform, kind of making hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And then I transitioned into a program manager role. I was part of the launch team for Amazon Business in the UK. I then went out to Singapore and I helped launch Amazon in Singapore. There I was responsible for catalog and browse quality, so a lot of stuff with A9. Then I came back to the EU and I led the scale up of Amazon Grocery in the EU, so helping Morrisons and Monoprix and Dia supermarkets sell as 3P sellers through Amazon.
Okay, so you worked quite a number of kind of different roles there. Is it fair to say you got kind of like a first-hand knowledge of how things work and how the best brands are making the most of kind of Amazon?
Well, I'd say it maybe in my year 2, when I was working with these big brands, I was learning a lot from them, maybe more than at the time I could offer any valuable advice. But working with the likes of Anchor, and they would kind of show me their presentations of their product development. And I remember, so this would have been about 2017, and we had a meeting and they had like this really kind of shiny PowerPoint, and they were like, these are all the things we're going to launch. And it was like a Roomba, so kind of like a vacuum, one of the vacuum cleaner things that goes around the floor. It was like a projector that you could project on a wall, and you could use it, you could, a portable thing, you could project on any wall. And obviously these things now in 2024, things that we know well, but at the time, like, it was the first time I'd seen many of these products. So they were really at the cutting edge of innovation, and it started there, right? Like, they had incredibly innovative products, always like pushing the boundaries, doing new stuff, and everything else was excellent. Like their product listings were excellent, their PPC strategies were excellent, their deal strategy was excellent. So like, the whole thing was a real kind of masterclass of how to really win on Amazon.
Okay, and you've got a front row seat to that, right? These are, did you say 9-figure brands?
Exactly, yeah. So Anchor is now, I think, a listed company. I don't know off the top of my head what they are, what they're worth, but I think it's in the billions. So they're at a 50 billion market cap, Anchor. So they're pretty big. Yeah, it was an incredible experience working with some brands. I also worked with other brands who, let's say, were, and I won't name names here, but very big high street brands that certainly UK people would recognize, probably have hundreds of stores across the country, and they really didn't get Amazon. So I saw the inverse of it as well, kind of in my portfolio of like 10 companies that I was helping. People like Anchor, Sun Valley Tech, Geonic, who were just like Amazon first brands and were killing it. And then on the other side, I had a handful of high street names who just didn't get it whatsoever. And like there obviously I was a bit more helpful, because I could be like, oh, why don't you think about increasing Prime coverage, why don't you think about doing a deal, or this or that or the other. So
would they listen to that feedback and take it on board?
I think, would they listen to the feedback? Sometimes I think it would depend on the personality. I think with some companies I worked with, again, I won't mention names, but like a high street retailer is like, this is how we do it, and we don't, we don't change. And you forget at the time, like Amazon now, became like the world's most valuable company in 2019 or 2020, whenever it was. But in kind of 2017, even 2 years before, like it was relatively small. And in my first, like when I joined in 2016, I remember talking to sellers who hadn't heard of Amazon. So I'd talk to a seller and be like, hey, why don't you list your product, this stuff online? And they'd be like, oh, what's Amazon? And this is in the UK. So I think Amazon's like rise was very fast, and certainly at the early days, some of these high street retailers wouldn't want to adapt their strategy, like looked at these guys as kind of like a new American startup, and they weren't going to play ball and change like how they've run for 100 years or 50 years or whatever it was.
I think that's a very British mindset, right? Of the tradition we know best, and we're not going to adapt to these like American upstarts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, final question on this kind of the old days, as it were. What would you say separated the brands that were kind of like doing well to those that weren't doing as well on Amazon?
So I really do believe that the number one thing was that product innovation. So Duronic, again, I remember talking to these guys, and they were like kind of creating new like office equipment, so like shredders and this kind of stuff, like basic electronics office equipment, but it was more reliable, cheaper, ship better. So I think like all of this stemmed with this is before the days of like Helium 10 and Smart Scout, but people were and we were doing this internally as well, like looking at what was like high volume search, trying to help innovate. And that's one of the things that's helping brands, the sellers I was working with do. Either if you're a high street retailer and saying, hey, look, the iPhone 7 is like got a huge amount of volume on search and like a really low conversion, can you list any? Do you have any? Because obviously some of these retailers would just have stock where they wouldn't even need to build anything. But even on the flip side with the brand saying like, hey, people are looking for this niche of shredder, and they would build it, and they would be like, okay, this is and I think the Amazon first brands definitely kind of had the edge on Amazon. And now obviously private label is a massive kind of way of succeeding on Amazon these days, right?
So these big brands are actually kind of taking on board customer search volume and building product around that.
We were doing that. Yeah, we were doing that in like 2017.
That's insane. Okay. That's why they're successful, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on from this then. So what was the story like with the founding of Ecomtent? Was that, at this point, or was there a kind of gap in between?
No. So I was a kind of, relatively senior. Obviously, I wasn't the Andy Jassy, but I'd got to like a relatively senior level at Amazon, and I was kind of thinking what was my next step in my career. My co-founder showed me the first release of Stable Diffusion, which was kind of the first generative model, and this is in 2022. And you could type in some text, you could generate an image, and back then this was like completely magical. And I said to him, okay, like rather than generating a generic image, could you, like a kind of mid-journey thing, could you like generate a specific lifestyle image for a product? And he kind of built that over the weekend. He's a PhD in AI, like super smart guy. And I was like, wow, this is just going to be so transformational. So quit my job. We kind of launched, the very first iteration of Ecomtent was our image generator, which is still an important part of what we do. We launched that maybe 3 weeks after it was possible. We're one of the first on the market to kind of have one of those. And then, we were kind of we were selling this like image generation tool. And then in November of that year, ChatGPT launched. So suddenly everybody kind of understood prompting and understood generative AI, whereas before, like this would literally be the first time our customers had ever experienced something like this. So it was quite a challenge to explain to them in some ways like how to use our software. But also when ChatGPT launched, I saw how good search was, and how, having worked in search in Amazon, I just believed that Amazon would have to adopt this kind of large language model conversational based search, or someone else would adopt it and take the crown off Amazon. So that's when, I'd say in November 2022, we started thinking about, okay, how can we optimize a large language model like search? Like, this is going to happen. How can we do that? And raised a bunch of money on kind of that vision, and that's where we are today. Okay,
there's a lot to kind of dig into.
Yeah.
I want to take it back. So you've got this, kind of V1 of the product. You're doing the image generation. Firstly, you're still working at Amazon, and then secondly, how are you?
No.
Okay, so you've kind of quit the.
I had run, for the listeners' context, I had like experimented with some businesses whilst at Amazon, and I don't know if I should say that publicly, but in my afternoons and whatever else, right? Evenings and weekends, whatever. I had explored some ideas. I'd sold in e-commerce. I'd done a few things, but I kind of felt that having a full-time job at Amazon is super demanding. I was managing a team of 15, and therefore, like, I was giving it like 4 hours a week, like, I had none of these. Maybe I had like 2 or 3 things that kind of I wrote business plans for, try to do stuff with, but it didn't go anywhere because I was just completely focused on my job, and it was a very all-consuming job. So when this came, it was. I could see it was going to be transformational, and that it was kind of something I should commit full time to, making it work. It felt like a once in a generation kind of technology change, whereas before this, obviously I wasn't working with any new technology, so it was harder to kind of make something that would really, go crazy.
That makes sense. So you're kind of quitting without a clear kind of roadmap. You're just jumping because
Correct.
You've seen.
We jumped. We had raised $0 when I left Amazon. We had.
It's very gutsy.
Yeah, but it felt. I remember talking to my grandpa at the time, and I was kind of discussing with him, and he was the one, with his his perspective on 80 years of life, saying like you're not going to regret it. You'll get enough. You'll get another job, and if not, you'll regret not doing this if you think it's the time is now to kind of do something.
Okay, and then back to V1 of the product. So you've got this kind of image generator. Are you kind of going out to brands, and how are you kind of being received with this product?
So our first customers were my friends. I had a lot of friends at Amazon who had gone on to found or work at aggregators. So a lot of like people in my network, the aggregator kind of boom, let's say in COVID. So that was in like 2020, 2021. They'd all raised a bunch of VC money. They'd all gone and hired like kind of heads, like people of my level at Amazon, like a head of a department, to go and run their Amazon or whatever, right? So I had good networks of people who I could show the product to and sell it to. I also had sellers that I hadn't worked directly with sellers for some years, for like 4 years 5 years by that point, but I still had some connections from when I was account manager, like some people who remembered me from like my first 2 years, kind of helping them. So I had a list of people who I could immediately take it to. Those were our first customers.
So it's kind of word of mouth.
Completely, and it's still word of mouth. We've not spent a penny on paid advertising at all. Wow. So we've not done any Google ads, anything like this. Like everything we've done is been organic to this point.
Wow. So it's literally just kind of a natural snowball, and you're focusing on product.
Focusing on building a great product, and a great product that people want to talk about, and we're fortunate that lots of our customers, like talking about us to people, and we kind of got, I wouldn't say we've gone viral because it's not a consumer product; it's a B2B product, so it's kind of limited in its virality. But certainly in the like Amazon communities, I think we've achieved some level of kind of name recognition that you wouldn't be getting if I was doing Instagram ads. Like, I'd just be some annoying kind of thing, like some of these other stuff I've seen where they're like, targeting you with the ads that you're like, go away.
So the focus must have been on product then. So can you kind of talk to me about the kind of evolution from V1 of the image generator and through some of the other versions and features?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the products, the focus is completely on product. Like, the team setup currently is myself as the only salesperson in the company. I have one customer success person now that supports me, and then the other 7 people in the company, including my co-founder, are all technical. So we've got 2 AI researchers, and then the rest are full stack developers. So like, it's very much we want to build the best product, and I'm not saying we'll never do any advertising, but I think we've got a long way to, we're growing very rapidly now. Like, we're 40% month-to-month growth. So like, we're like, whilst we're growing so rapidly, I don't feel a need to do any try and do any kind of sale like paid advertising. So yeah, like, the focus on the product, I guess, came from just talking to customers. So we started with the image generation, and we quickly realized that whilst it was at that time, I'd say it was kind of like a novel thing, and it was like a very cool piece of tech that people would try out, but we realized it wasn't practical, because the real thing that customers wanted was to save time, right? If you have like a super high end product like the iPhone, you probably want to go and buy photographers, right? Like, you probably want to do it properly, and AI isn't going to be good enough, let's be honest. So if you are going to be using AI, the reason you're doing that is because either 2 reasons. You want to save cost. We don't particularly want to work with, we didn't find that working with people who are trying to like cut costs with good customers. That wasn't we decided we didn't want to go in that direction. Or you want to save time, right? So you've got lots of products to do. Either you're a big retailer, you're an agency, and you're going to, you're going to apply 80-20, 20% of the products you're still going to do in the traditional way, 80% of it you're going to use AI, and whilst like visually it could be maybe less good, actually in terms of ranking and in terms of conversion, like, we can tune that pretty well. So like, if you look at it, like, you might be like, oh, that looks a little bit AI, but actually like, we've nailed it in terms of the algorithms. But so basically we found the first point was we wanted to help people achieve like speed and scale, and actually having like a 1-by-1 image generator, which would, obviously quicker than doing a photograph, was you still needed to prompt, you still needed to upload the product, so there was definitely time efficiency. So we kind of built integration into Amazon, so you into the Amazon seller app, so it'd be very quick to kind of generate the content. We also built A+ content and infographics and copy, so you're kind of generating everything. So therefore, like, you don't have to go to other tools to do anything else. You can do everything with us. So that helped us to achieve speed and scale, which was a key thing. So then we kind of built everything, and then kind of that was until about let's say so we started in 2022. Maybe by the end of by mid 2023 we kind of had built out everything, and then it was a big focus on optimization. So it's like, okay, now you can generate everything, but how do you generate stuff which is actually going to convert, which is going to help you rank better? And also, as I said, we had a big focus on these like AI models, like optimizing for these new AI models, which obviously AI is going to be much better than a human at doing. So we had an advantage over, let's say, a seller using an agency or using a freelancer or Fiverr, which is like, we now have a lot of data. We've got a lot of customers, a lot of data. We can see what's working. We can. We also have like AI researchers who are reading all the science papers and seeing how Amazon's search is working. Let's just fine tune the generation. So it's it's not like our copy isn't like going on ChatGPT and saying, hey, write me some Amazon copy for this. Like ours is super fine tuned. It's plugged into the brand analytics. We've got search volume. We see, as I said, what's working across a lot of customers. So yeah, we kind of started with that. The V2, let's say, of Ecomtent was kind of solving that speed and scale problem, which meant integrations and additional content. And then kind of where we are today is like the optimization as well.
Can you explain in kind of very simple terms what you mean by like content that's kind of optimized for the large language models?
Sure. So one of the pieces that we recognized is that large language model, well, a very fundamental truth about large language models is that they don't work in the same way that ranking on traditional Amazon search worked. Traditionally in A9, A9 would stack rank keywords, like long tail keywords, like I don't know, like cream office chair, right? And it would look on that keyword who has the best price, who has the best conversion, who has the best reviews, like, and it would kind of have some algorithm about like 19 different inputs, and it would rank on that keyword for that. With a large language model, which is now in Rufus, but also just in general Amazon search, they don't work like this. They understand. They take a prompt. From a prompt, you have you convert the text into numbers, which are tokens, and then you compress the tokens. So they don't work on a long, like on a kind of word basis anymore. They're working on a compressed token basis. So any long tail keyword you may have may not be in like the AI's generation. So that's number one. Number two is that they understand. They have a much better grasp of the user. They understand the intent behind what they're putting in. They can understand. You know, Amazon is building stuff to, and they've said this explicitly in their papers. You know, surface personalized stuff to each person. So like they understand the price point that I buy at. They understand my gender, my age, my my shopping preferences. So they'll show me something different to maybe a woman in her 50s. Who may buy more expensive or cheaper stuff than me. So they're building in this personalization to these LLMs based on the customer. And also, point one, point two, LLMs don't work in the same way that traditional search worked. So there was a big opportunity that we saw to build something that optimizes for these large language models. It like isn't being served by others in the it's still not to this date. Like people started to say, oh, we're helping you with Rufus, but if the fundamental product they're offering is the same thing as what they were doing before Rufus, they're not seriously they haven't seriously rewritten everything in the same way that we have kind of built this from scratch to work with AI.
Can you just explain what Rufus is?
Rufus is kind of the front end ChatGPT integration that Amazon has. It allows you to search as a customer conversationally, and it's kind of a little. At the moment, it's a separate thing from the search bar on Amazon. It's on in the UK. It's on mobile. In the US, it's on mobile and desktop. But who knows how this is going to move? Like, I don't think it makes sense in the long term for Amazon to have two search bars. So I would imagine once they're kind of happy with Rufus, Amazon will merge these two in a similar way that we see kind of Google with like the AI overviews first and then the traditional second. Obviously, I don't work in Amazon anymore. I don't know how this is going to end up, but I would imagine there'd be some different split tests that happen across different customers. They will kind of be maybe testing 5 different ideas of like how this works, and it'll be continuously improving. Fundamentally, Amazon have again put in their science papers that they're seeing increasing conversion by these tests. Like, the products are more personalized. They've got a better, the AI understands products better than traditional search. For example, they're multimodal, so they can read images as well. So if you are searching for like a blue V-neck, like I'm wearing, on traditional Amazon search in 2022, you'd get green ones and yellow ones and pink ones because, the sellers would be keyword stuffing. Same with Nike and Reebok and brands, they would be keyword stuffing. It would ruin the search because the AI wasn't smart enough to say this is blue or this is Nike. This is not the case anymore with AI. Like, it is smart enough to like read the images, understand the content of the images. So that's another element that we are kind of focusing on.
So is the extrapolation from this, if you continue to play by like the old rules of, I guess, keyword kind of focused content, you're going to get left behind, you're going to get lower kind of conversion rates, and you're going to sell less on Amazon?
100%. And I think maybe some of the sellers listening to this have experienced this, and often that's now the case we find it in, that people will reach out to us and say, hey, like, we think something's changed in Cosmo and Rufus. We're getting less this and this and this. And, hopefully when they use Ecomtent, they see this kind of increasing again their conversions, their ranking. So it's definitely something we're seeing, I'm seeing anyway, in kind of from my position.
Okay. Can you just walk through, let's say, you've got a new customer that they've bought on a listing. What does the process look like of kind of working with you guys, and how, in reality, are you kind of like changing their listing to be more optimized?
So it's a self-service platform fundamentally. So they can go up, they can sign on to the website. They will. We have different packages for like kind of small sellers, vendors, and agencies and aggregators. So they can sign up on the website. They will then connect their Amazon account. That will kind of pull all of their listings into Ecomtent. They can then kind of see the Cosmo score and a few other scores. Very soon they'll see like the Rufus score of each listing. So that means like how many questions of each listing have you answered? How many Rufus's questions have you answered? As you may know, Rufus is now like prompting questions on the detail page in the US. So like if you go on there, you'll literally see like, it will literally prompt you to ask questions. So you want to have those answered. The Cosmo score is how optimized are you for the AI-powered search. So they can see a bunch of those different scores. They can filter, they can sort and filter by the lowest performing ones, and then they can generate content in one click. They can generate lifestyle images, infographics, A+ content, optimized copy, and then they can review it, and if they're happy, they can publish it. So
it's the focus is still very much on speed and ease of use for the end user.
Absolutely. Like, it's been built on that speed and end of use. So we've got a case study. Like, it takes 2 minutes to generate an optimized listing on Ecomtent. It probably takes 6.5 hours doing it if you were to use Helium 10 and Canva and ChatGPT. Like, if you were to even if you're still using AI, but you would like to take all of those different pieces and do some Adobe, some Canva, some this, some that, you're going to take about 6.5 hours. Customers have told us to make a listing, and with us it's literally a 2-minute job.
And they don't need to add other stuff in. It's just because it's pulling directly from the integration that you've got.
Exactly, it pulls the keywords from brand analytics. So we have we show the customer the keywords we've used in generation and the volumes of those keywords, so they get that as well.
Okay, and then I guess to the juicy stuff, what kind of example stats or uplifts does this kind of content get?
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of case studies on the website. So some case studies on conversion. We've seen conversion increase by 30% roughly on average. We have, in terms of the other one we focus on, which is discoverability. We've got some case studies of customers going to outside the top 50 to number 26 in bestseller rank for a very competitive category. So those are some of the case studies we've seen, as well as the speed one that I mentioned.
Okay, so it's both, getting more eyeballs on, and then more of those eyeballs are purchasing.
Yeah, it's discoverability, conversion, speed. Yeah.
Okay, and how quickly do those kind of results take?
So normally with the conversion ones, you run it through Amazon experiments. So often we say to customers, hey, run an experiment, and they'll see the results themselves. So some of the case studies include those experiment things, but typically those are 4 weeks that Amazon do. And then on the discoverability side, again, maybe 4 weeks to kind of get to have the algorithm kind of see the uplift. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I guess if that's quick, then yeah.
Well, within the first month, right? There's a lot of these there's tools that promise the world, and then it's 6 months to wait, and then the results don't quite materialise. So it's very cool. Okay, then what I want to do next is just kind of zoom out, because I think what you've talked about so far is kind of relevant to the e-com industry as a whole, kind of outside of Amazon as well. How do you see this kind of evolving over the next, 5 to 10 years?
So I think the big next thing that's going to happen are agents. So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, there's probably going to be more AI agents than humans in the world. I think all of us will have a personal AI agent assistant that we will use for basic things like managing our diary, buying certain products, if you're out of Nespresso pods or your washing machine's broken and you need a new screw, you'll probably use your AI agent to make those kind of low-level decisions. So we'll all have an personal assistant, which is 100 times smarter than us, PhD level physics, maths, biology, everything that we can talk to. I think on the flip side, a lot of companies like ours will be essentially vertical agents for let's say managing your Amazon account, or e-commerce agent, and then you'll have some companies who are finance and legal. So you have a bunch of vertical agents that you would engage with as a seller. Maybe now your CFO is actually an AI agent, or maybe you're using a company that does that there are obviously some humans working in the company, but fundamentally your books are prepared by an AI agent. Some qualified accountant checks it over for 2 minutes and goes, yeah, this looks right. And obviously the AI agent eventually is going to be more less error prone than any human, right, at some level. So I think the world will be all of us having our own AI agents and then engaging with various AI agents that kind of represent different companies. I think Amazon itself has kind of nodded in this direction with Amelia, which is kind of its AI agent for Seller Central. They've also got one for seller support, which they announced and Accelerate. So I think that's going to be a big piece that happens. I would imagine the second thing would kind of be AI integrated into home goods. So your fridge is intelligent and can tell you the calories of various meals you can cook and what ingredients you have at home, and therefore what you can make for dinner, plus maybe able to order something quickly for get a speed delivery of carrots or whatever it would be, if that's a key ingredient missing for your favorite meal. Your mirror would be able to tell you what skincare you should buy. So I think we'll move to this world of AI infused into everyday consumer products, plus having these agents that we're talking to all the time.
How well centralized will these agents be, and how will they kind of communicate between each other?
Well, I hope not very centralized, because I think there's some questions more on the philosophical and political end of the bad things that could happen if we have centralized agents, a centralized government agent that does your health and also your school and also your can you pass your driving test. I think that's a very dangerous situation if stuff starts to get centralized. So I hope not very centralized. My hope is you will have a bunch of companies that kind of you have one people who do the legal stuff, and you have a set of people who do the health stuff, and a set of people who do the accounting, and a set of people who are us who do the e-commerce, and everything is very decentralized. And yes, all these agents can communicate, but at some level you can tell your agent how much data you're comfortable sharing, and it can therefore manage those relationships and kind of keep private things private. And so yeah, I hope not centralized.
I noticed you said the word hope. Do you think the reality is the same as your hope, or do you think that the reality
I think it depends where you live. I think if you live in China, I'd be very, very worried that I think these AI agents will benefit autocracies keeping control of the population in ways that it was just not unimaginable for Stalin to kind of have that much control over his population as what is going to be possible in the future. So I would imagine in well, I hope and I believe in democracies that maybe people are, like in all of these discussions, again, not to get too political, I'm kind of less worried about what companies will do. I'm like, yeah, like maybe Amazon or Google do some bad things, but like really the bad things are done by governments, right? Like, so I'm more worried about what this looks like on a government side and how those things aren't centralized. Whereas, if Amazon are offering you like a shopping assistant as a consumer and a seller help app as a seller, like, yeah, I hope obviously it's not a monopoly, but I think the like ramifications are less bad than what could happen, in other.
What do you recommend for a kind of regulatory or like monitoring?
Gosh, I don't know. What do from a government side, my instinct would be that we don't want to trade efficiency with AI. Like, obviously, I think it's totally inefficient, the government we have, but like, we're talking about AI agents. We want to hold privacy and kind of individual rights more important than efficiency when it comes to, let's not have an agent that does your taxes and your health and your car insurance, and like, because I think that's when you get into a very dangerous situation, and it's hard also to see how things are making those decisions, and if they're taking your grades from school and putting that into how you drive. Like, I think we definitely need to have separation of like agentic government departments in order to facilitate privacy and kind of livable.
Okay. I will move away from politics now and kind of this topic. I want to put it back to kind of what you said before. So, obviously we've talked about kind of, the Amazon way of getting traffic and eyeballs and stuff like that. Does this thought process apply to kind of all search? So, I'm thinking here kind of Google search. Is that kind of trending in its direction in terms of the content needs to be
absolutely.
re-optimized?
And we're working with some large enterprise customers on Google now with Gemini. So we have, we've got one of the largest retailers in Canada who are basically like the Asda of Canada, who we're working with on this front. So absolutely, Gemini is moving there. ChatGPT has just launched search functionalities, which we're also exploring with some enterprise customers. Again, like large retailers. So we're definitely looking at like the success we've had with Amazon and optimizing for like Amazon's large language models, taking that out to the other ones that are coming.
Okay, and will that be kind of like building separate products for each of those different platforms?
I think yes and no. I think we some things, definitely some learnings and some our content generation engine, which is very strong, remains across all of them. Obviously, they are different models, and we all like have to. We are replicating the research we've done. On the 292 science papers on Amazon, and we're replicating that across the different areas. But I think they are. There's a lot of things we can use across them.
Yeah. Okay. And will you guys stay? I guess. Yeah. This is probably a question for the near time. Will you stay focused on e-commerce, or will you do kind of all content and go wider than that?
I think our mission is to help like e-commerce to optimize for the future of AI-powered search. So we will definitely do different search models. So we'll do we're doing now Gemini, ChatGPT search, Perplexity, etc. But I think we'll stay in e-commerce is a big enough market for the short term, and is a different type of search intent than, let's say, travel or whatever, right? We're just going to be very good at doing what we do, I think, in e-commerce.
Okay, makes sense. Could we talk now about kind of growing the business? So
sure.
I know, as you mentioned, you guys raised at the beginning of the journey, and that kind of helped fuel your growth. How was that process, and was that kind of a prerequisite for the business?
So I think it was a prerequisite for the type of ambition that we have, because we want to build a really like an industry defining company. So we would, whilst we've been revenue generating since day one, and we've gone in and out of profitability depending on the number of kind of staff we have, we still want to go faster, and therefore and also we're training large models, right, fine-tuning stuff, like we've got patents, we're doing a lot of research which is expensive. So for us it was a prerequisite. In terms of the journey, like the first, like we took some angel money, like very small amounts of angel money, like £10,000, before we went on Techstars, which is like an accelerator. So we kind of those guys invested 120k, and then we, following doing Techstars, we kind of did a proper VC round where we kind of identified all of the, let's say, VCs we thought would be a good fit for us and we'd be a good fit for them. We reached out to kind of all of them at the same time, and we kind of tried to spend basically a month or two just focusing on all of those conversations and raising the money, and we were successful with that. So we had 3 offers from VCs. Currently we've taken 850 US, but we may have some announcements in the future on this front as well. So let's
exciting. Okay.
Crossed.
And if you were to start again, would you go that same route in terms of the funding?
Well, it depends what kind of business I was building.
If it was the same business and you were just kind of starting it again, do you think that's the right path to take?
I would have maybe even gone more ambitious earlier. I think it was very good for us to go on Techstars because I think you're kind of, it was 4 months in person in San Francisco, kind of learning the ropes of what it is to be like a founder. They spent a month teaching us about financial modeling, for example, which I had done a bit about it in Amazon, but like not the same type of financial model, like not an entire business financial modeling, right? I was modeling like a subset of it. They spent, so I think that was helpful for us in the first time round to kind of go on an accelerator and have a peer group and learn the basics. But I think if I was to do it again now, I would not necessarily I wouldn't need to do that again, and I would focus on going even faster, going straight to raising big checks from the VC route. Go faster.
Okay. And how did you find that fundraising process in terms of the appetite for the idea and what you guys are trying to build?
Well, I think we had good appetite. I think it's a bit of a cat and mouse game. I think we were fortunate to find the first VC who really bought into us as a team, as a founding team, and the idea. And once you have like the first serious money on board, I think everything gets a lot easier, because now when I talk to VCs, I have cash in the bank. I don't need anything from them. So like if they want to join, they can. If they don't want to join, that's also fine. Like we'll still be here. So the dynamic kind of once you have a little bit of leverage, it shifts. Before then, when you either take the money or basically you fire the team and kind of shrink down to what you can afford on your runway by itself. Obviously they have a lot of leverage on you, and so I think we were fortunate to meet. The first VC was a great, very friendly one, and we've had less friendly offers and things since, which we may have been forced to accept, but we weren't, just from luck that we met the right people first.
Okay. And do you have any advice for like new founders that are trying to raise VC in terms of how they can be more successful?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, humans work on stories, so I would focus on getting a really strong story about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and when you leave the meeting, they're not going to remember your TAM numbers or your like projections in year 5, but they will remember, like if you tell a very strong story, they'll remember that, and that's what they will talk. That's what they'll share with their colleagues internally. I think secondly, you have to understand you have to understand a bit the VC, what they're looking for, and they're looking for $1 billion opportunities. So you need to do some very simple maths, which is like whatever your pricing is or your plan pricing is times whatever like reasonable like realistic amount of customers you can actually get are, and if that doesn't equal like plus a billion or 100 million, because if you're doing 100 million in revenue, maybe you've got a 10x multiple to be $1 billion company. If that doesn't equal a billion, then the whole thing is pointless. So you should rethink, how like for us, like if you're just doing an image generation model for Amazon sellers, there's 2 million Amazon sellers. Maybe an image generation model they'll pay $10 a month for. The math doesn't add up to $1 billion, right? So you can be, and you're not also going to get all 2 million of them. So you should do the very basic like back of a napkin maths to say like, does this equal $1 billion, and or 100 million? If it doesn't, do something else.
Move on. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, and then I may be mistaken, but I believe you're based in the UK.
Yes.
But a lot of your business is, a lot of your team, and I believe you're also registered in Canada. Is that true? And if so, how come?
Correct. My co-founder is Canadian. It's a structure that makes a lot of sense for, which I won't get into here, but it makes a lot of sense for, let's say, relief, kind of tax relief for various parties.
Okay, and in terms of geography, are you really going after the US and kind of North American market, or are you
both? Yeah. So I mean, we will soon have a team in both in the UK and in Canada. So absolutely, both is what we want.
Okay, and then I guess next, and just kind of before we wrap up, what's next? What are you guys focused on doing with Ecomtent, and yeah, what are the next steps?
So we kind of touched upon it. I think we are expanding. We're expanding what we do from. Well, first of all, like, you can always improve, right? And by improving, like, there's a lot of stuff which we don't own, but improves our product. For example, like, we're not building base models, so the image generation models, we don't build them, we fine tune them, and we plug them into like, we take an image generation model, we fine tune it so you can place a product in that image generation model and kind of use the model to like guess the next pixel around the customer's product. So, but how good the model is guessing pixels and how realistic that looks is not something we build. We plug that in from open source models. So there's always new models that are coming out that are improving the quality of our tool. This is true of video. I don't think video is quite good enough yet, but there's always new models out and always stuff we're assessing. So we continue to improve, all aspects of what we're doing, and I think if you talk to customers, they're happy with like the just level of like quality is just kind of exponentially increasing. So that's kind of number one. I think number two, like we can Amazon is a very fast moving space. The Amazon are always publishing new science papers, and they're always doing new experiments in terms of Rufus and how they're displaying this. So there's a lot of pieces here which we are we're on top of, and we're looking at, and we're working on. And then also I am hiring our first kind of person in sales. So if people listening want to join, that's what I'm looking at, to get like our first salesperson to kind of help to accelerate the growth further. So those are kind of the key three things.
Okay, nice. You touched on it there. There's a lot of information, both in the kind of AI space and about Amazon. How do you guys stay on top of like latest trends and kind of information?
Well, the good news from Amazon side is that they in Amazon Science they release everything, so you can look at all the science papers there, and that that's the best way of doing it. The second best way of doing it is having all the data that we have and testing and understanding what's working and what applying that science. So that's what we do, and I think that's the best way.
Okay, perfect. Well, Max, look, I think this is the podcast where I've learned the most. It was super informative. I want to say thank you for coming on. It's really interesting.
Thanks, Jordan. Great.
Two final questions.
Okay.
First one is, if people are interested, what kind of brands do you work with, and where can they find you?
We work with well, all Amazon sellers. So you can find us at ecomtent.ai. That's ecomtent.ai. You can find me on LinkedIn or Twitter, and yeah, you can reach out to me, and I'll can get a demo going, or yeah.
Perfect. And I will put the links in the description. And then, yeah, Max, final question. Do you know anyone else in the space that you think would be a good fit to come on the podcast?
Yes. Do you want me to say now, or do you want me to say afterwards?
We can chat afterwards.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, Max. It was great having you on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.